So Novel recently tweeted how Bitcoin is insured against fiat and Zcash is insurance against Bitcoin, which made me kind of curious that, like, I understand how Bitcoin is insurance against fiat, but how is Zcash insurance against Bitcoin?
Yeah, so primarily it comes from privacy considerations. Blockchains like the actual variation of the blockchains that we got initially, the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. All of these blockchains are primarily built on complete transparency and privacy features, and that works great in the DeFi world. But when you are coming into the payment world and when you want to represent yourself, establish yourself as a payment processor, and create the things that something like a payment grade stablecoin. There's something that we discussed in our last video, right? What makes a stablecoin payment grade? And one of the primary consideration in that argument was you have to be private, because otherwise in the corporate world where privacy and the value of certain pieces of information, those are paramount, and they are simply not going to give up their privacy, their corporate secrets, all of the stuff that they're dealing with, their extremely complicated web of financial infrastructure that they currently have. They're not going to give that up because the payment settles faster in the blockchain. So that's simply not going to happen. So that's why you need to have a stablecoin provider. That's why you need to have a system, a blockchain specifically, not just a stablecoin
Hmm.
provider, a blockchain that focuses on privacy far more than it focuses on convenience, or how fast it is, how easy it is to use. So that's basically where it comes from. If I'm using Bitcoin and you know my Bitcoin wallet address, or the whatever Bitcoin address that I'm sharing with you, you can pretty much track every transaction that I'm doing. And what you have two ways, right? You can use an exchange, like a centralized exchange. In a centralized exchange, nobody can really track what you're doing, but that's not the point of using crypto, right? You don't want to use centralized exchanges. You because we know that not your key, not your coin. That's pretty much where it comes from. You want to retain 100% control over your the assets that you have, and at the same time you want to keep it 100% private. That's pretty much where we are looking at.
And why is it a problem for businesses if like stablecoin transactions are fully transparent?
I mean, okay, sure. Take it. Imagine you are running a multi-billion-dollar company and you have made some private acquisitions. You are making some purchases. You are issuing a certain amount of uh, money in payrolls every month. Do you really want everyone to have access to
Right.
that sort of privileged information? Like, what about the tax considerations? What about your competitors taking uh, basically pretty much getting a complete
Right.
blueprint of how your finance works? That's simply is not feasible, right? And that's where it comes back to the Zcash conversation, is that um, now we obviously discuss all things regarding stable coins and RWA in general. And so where I find Zcash to be particularly interesting is if we bring Zcash into the world of stable coins, what does that look like? Why is Zcash getting so much attention in the last couple of weeks? I mean, I think their token soared 250% or something in the last couple of weeks. So what is it all about? And I did some digging. Especially, I wanted to find out, like, can we imagine a hypothetical stablecoin infrastructure functioning in the Zcash world, in the Zcash environment? So I wanted to do a bit of digging, and I found some pretty interesting stuff that I think it makes it feasible for us to not only just think about it, but a lot of projects are already working on native stablecoins on the
Mm.
Zcash blockchain and in the Zcash ecosystem. So I want to basically quickly give you a rundown of what Zcash is and why it matters so much in the privacy blockchain world. So Zcash is in general architected not for absolute or unbreakable opacity, but from where I stand, I see it as programmable and auditable privacy. Their model will generally combines. You have the cryptographically robust confidentiality for on-chain transactions on one side, and then on the other side you have explicit user-controlled mechanisms that you can use for selective disclosures. So they have introduced this new thing called Zcash Shielded Assets, which lets you create issue new assets in the Zcash blockchain. That's not not the native token, right? So what that means is you can Zcash is providing the technical framework for you to issue other assets like stable coins that can meet the stringent privacy demands that these enterprise users have, while simultaneously you are also satisfying compliance requirements and auditing requirements that the financial regulators are almost certainly going to ask you if you are a large fire company, right? So here's how the general infrastructure works. Think of so Zcash uses this thing called a zk-SNARK. Zk is obviously zero knowledge, and SNARKs are succinct, non-interactive argument of knowledge. That's basically what it means.
Okay, what does that mean in simple language?
Yeah. Okay. So imagine Zcash is a zero knowledge proof is basically a smart contract will do will do some take some actions on behalf of you, and it won't necessarily tell you what it has done. It will just give you the final results. So what it does is it assures complete privacy on both sides. Now with in a Zcash transaction using the zk-SNARK proof, what they guarantee is conservation of value, which means that the sum of the input value is equal to the sum of the output value, which is basically the primary requirement for having a payment infrastructure. And then it also verifies ownership. So basically the sender is the legitimate owner of the input of funds and possesses the necessary spending keys to authorize the transactions, meaning I have the money and I have the authority to send you that money. And zk-SNARK ensures that. And the third and the final thing is non-double spending, which is obviously a crucial requirement for any functional blockchain. So it satisfies all three requirements, and so that's pretty much the basic infrastructure of Zcash. Now, where it is actually where it differs from other privacy focused blockchain is this selective disclosure mechanism that they have. So imagine the most critical architectural element for a stablecoin use case is going to be Zcash's suite of selective disclosure tools, which will this feature basically transforms privacy from an absolute opaque state to a granular user control spectrum. How they do it is they have these things called viewing keys. A viewing key is basically you have a Zcash shielded address in association with a spending key and a viewing key. Now, if you have the viewing key, that means you only have read-only access to transaction data. They have in the last few years, Zcash has had a few upgrades. Sapling and Orchard being the last two ones, and Sapling and Orchard supports this full viewing key feature, which can be trusted, so can be shared with a trusted third party, such as an auditor, accountant, or regulator. And anyone who is holding this FVK, the full viewing key, can view all of your incoming and outgoing transactions associated with your address, including basically transaction values and timestamps and counterparty addresses, etc. Pretty much like if you go to Etherscan or BSC scan, and if you put in your wallet address, those are the things that you're going to see. But when you are using Zcash, those information is only going to be accessible or available to people who have access to this full viewing key. And aside from this full viewing key, you have another thing called payment disclosures, which is a feature that you can use to generate a proof for a single specific transaction. That without giving access to the full viewing key, like someone has requested information on a single transaction, and you create this payment disclosure where you can share information on that. Now, what that means is, like, you have let's say you have a payment dispute with a merchant, or someone wants a refund or something, and you have to provide this proof of payment for a specific invoice to an auditor, for example. And this is how that payment disclosure works. And those are the two primary things. And on top of that, you have basically an encrypted memo field where every shielded transaction in Zcash includes this encrypted memo field, and this field is designed for compliance reasons. So that's pretty much how the general infrastructure of the Zcash blockchain works. But what I particularly want to focus on this video is the Zcash shielded assets and how they work, right? Because Zcash shielded asset is where the stable coins are going to come out of. So these ZSAs come from improvement proposals in particular. One is the ZIP 227 for issuance and ZIP 226 for transfer and burning. So what these improvement proposals actually focus on is they have compartmentalized the two activities, issuance and redeeming is in one compartment that is transparent, and then transactions and other stuff that is shielded, right? So how you basically issue new assets is an issuer will mint a new batch for a custom asset, and you will have, whenever you are issuing any the blockchain will have a transparency in terms of the custom type asset type that you are creating, the quantity, the issuer's identity via public key. This will all be recorded on the blockchain, and so this is a critical feature, right? Because it will allow anyone, for regulators, auditors, users, that to basically independently verify that what is the total circulating supply of the asset at any time, and ensuring that it matches with the issuer's declared reserve that you have. Like if you are going to issue a Zcash based stablecoins in the US, you are going to satisfy their reserve requirements, right? So this is going to be particularly important that this information is publicly available. And then you have got the ZIP 226, which is like once a shielded asset is minted, this ZIP 226 governs its life cycle within the Orchard shielded pool. And what this specifies is that ZSS can be transferred between shielded addresses with the exact same privacy guarantee as the ZEC token. The sender, receiver, asset type, the amount, all are going to be encrypted and are going to be verified using a zero knowledge proof. Think of the entire stablecoin issuing process in 4 steps. You have the minting, the distribution, circulation, and redemption. Minting is you are using the ZIP 227. Yeah, this information is publicly available to everyone. Distribution is when the newly minted stablecoin goes from the issuer's address to the user address, and this at this point the asset is going to be shielded, and you're going to have no longer any overview of what's going on inside these addresses unless you are specifically permission to do so with a viewing key, right? And again, the circulation part, this is going to be completely shielded. You have no idea what's going on inside. And then ultimately you come to the redemption point, where if you want to convert your stablecoin into fiat, at this point you send it back to the issuer's address, which is publicly viewable, and the issuer burns your tokens, and you get back your fiat. So
And why is public minting and burning important, even if transfers stay private?
yeah, I mean, it's specifically for the regulatory purposes. As I said in the beginning, like if you are a Genius or a MiCA compliant stablecoin, you are going to show proof of your reserve, right? And your reserve is completely dependent on how much stablecoin you have issued. If you have issued $100 billion worth of stablecoin, you have to have $100 billion in reserve. Now, if your minting and burning is not publicly available, then you can say, okay, I have minted this much. I have minted 100 billion, and here the $100 billion of worth of asset in my reserve. But you may have minted 150 billion or 200 billion. No one can check that, right? So you have to have the minting and burning the data publicly available at all times. That's primarily the requirement, right? So this model basically solves the core challenge for private stablecoins, which is basically who gets to have access to what level of information, and who deserves to see and is entitled to see the full life cycle of your token transactions, and who only gets to see only one part of your transaction details. Right now, all these things combined, everything sounds pretty much like a sunshine and rainbow, but there are a few challenges that are unique to the Zcash blockchain environment, like the ecosystem. One is there's this potential issue called the Freerider Problem, where basically imagine you are a stablecoin company making banks on the Zcash ecosystem. You are making a ton of money, but you are not really paying any amount or any amount to, you are not contributing anything to the network security budget. Now that's a problem, because Zcash miners do that do that to keep the network secure, and if you're not doing that, that may be a problem. And then there is another issue with it's basically it creates this top heavy environment where, let's say, a stablecoin's market cap crosses or basically over exceeds the ZEC market crash. Sorry, ZEC market cap. Now this can legitimately challenge the security of the network, and it may lead to something like a 51% attack because the economics make sense, etc., etc. But all of these questions and issues, I'm pretty sure, will be resolved in the next few months, because the amount of how should I put it, the amount of attention Zcash is getting at this moment, I'm sure builders are already looking into it. And although we don't have a native stablecoin on Zcash as of now, I'm pretty sure we are going to have something that, if not a Zcash native stablecoin, you will have access to something that also operates or is also available in the Zcash world as well. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I think about Zcash at this moment.
Do you think stablecoins issued as ZSS would be more or less popular than the ones on Ethereum?
I mean, it's two different type of crowd. On Ethereum, you have the DeFi people. On Ethereum, on pretty much any other blockchain, you have the DeFi people. You have people like individual users who are okay. Nobody is really taking a look at their financial history. Nobody really cares about them to what they're doing financially. If it's only a few $1,000s worth of transactions every year or every month, then it doesn't really matter. But when you get to the position where privacy is your highest concern, that's when you actively seek out privacy blockchains like Zcash. That's when you public that's when you want to start using the stable coins that are specifically private. Or, I mean, yeah, so that's for individuals. And for companies, uh privacy is your primary concern, right? And if you think that Zcash is giving you, like, these ZSAs are giving you solving your problem, then you are going to use Zcash stablecoins.
And what about the regulators? Do they see privacy coins as dangerous, or just they are just misunderstood?
I think this is a question. Regulators should not be looking into people's financial records in general. If you have a question about, if you have a certain uh, things that you want to ensure, like if is the stablecoin maintaining an adequate amount of reserve? Are they telling the truth at all point? Are there any position to handle any run on the bank kind of situation, where if there is a cascade of sell pressure coming their way, can they honor the holders that they have? Can they pay them back? These are the things that regulators should be looking at, and not who is disclosing their private financial details and who is not. But in general, again, like, for example, European regulators don't like privacy. They want to take a look at everything, right? So if you are an European regulator, you're probably going to be pissed if you know that you are not going to be able to end to end, if you like, you have a end to end access to someone's financial details.
So it seems like the US would be more open to like privacy preserving stablecoins.
I mean, yeah, in general, right? I mean, the saying goes that the US innovates, Europe
Right.
regulates, and China imitates, right? So it's pretty much any sort of financial innovation we are going to see is going to come out of the US. Because look at the people who are driving the regulations there. They have actual people who really understands this stuff, working with the government to create the regulations. And the regulation in the US is created to enhance or basically make things easier for the companies to do business in the US. Whereas in Europe, they come from a completely different angle. And like, they want to choke you out, essentially. They want to take every single possible advantage over companies, and they want to essentially dictate how you can operate and behave in the European Union, right? So yeah, in terms of regulation, in terms of innovation, it's always going to be the US who takes the first foot. And then basically Europe starts finding out ways to make things less efficient, to make things more cumbersome. That's pretty much where we are at this point.